Law of chemical combination. The following two laws of chemical combination were established after much experimentation by Lavoisier and Joseph L. Proust. So the first law here is law of conservation of mass. So the question is there a change in mass when a chemical change, that is chemical reaction, takes place? To understand this, let us see the activity mentioned in the textbook on page number 31. Take one of the following sets, X and Y of the chemicals. So they have given the set of chemicals in the X list, that is copper sulfate, and in the Y list sodium carbonate. The second compound is barium chloride and sodium sulfate, and the third one is lead nitrate and sodium chloride. So prepare separately 5% solution of any pair of substance listed under X and Y in water. Take a little amount of solution of Y in a conical flask and some solution of X in an ignition tube. Hang the ignition tube in the flask carefully. See that the solution do not get mixed. Put a cork on the flask. So after setting the experiment, what you have to do is you have to place it on the weighing machine. So before the reaction and after the reaction, we are going to check the mass, what happens to the mass of the reaction. So in this activity, it is shown that barium chloride when react with sodium sulfate. So barium chloride and sodium sulfate you have to keep separate in a conical flask and ignition tube. Don't allow it to mix. After that, you keep it on a weighing machine and take the weight of it. And later on, you after weighing it, you tilt and swirl the flask so that the solution of X and Y get mixed. Again you have to keep it on a weighing machine. So what happens in the reaction flask after the reaction? So here you will see that before the reaction and after the reaction the mass remains constant. So this activity proves that law of conservation of mass states that mass can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. This means that during a chemical reaction, the sum of the masses of the reactants and the products remains unchanged. Second law is known as law of constant proportion. Here, Lavoisier, along with other scientists, noted that many compounds are composed of two or more elements, and each such compound had the same elements in the same proportion, irrespective of where the compound came from or who prepared it. In a compound such as water, the ratio of the mass of hydrogen to the mass of oxygen is always 1 is to 8, whatever the source of water. Thus, if 9 gram of water is decomposed, we will get 1 gram of hydrogen and 8 gram of oxygen. So it always has this composition. Similarly, in case of ammonia, nitrogen and hydrogen are always present in the ratio of 14 is to 3 by mass, whatever the method or the source from which it is obtained. So this led to the law of constant proportion, which is also known as the law of definite proportion. This law was stated by Proust as in a chemical substance, the elements are always present in a definite proportion by mass.